We all face dark moments in our life, but it's especially hard when you lose a loved one or a parent very early on in your life. It's one of the darkest places you'll ever be in. That kind of darkness floods your life and washes away all the colors. It silences the world and it feels like the light is gone completely. And I would know because that's exactly what happened to me. For those of you who don't know me yet, I'm Jan and my mum died 7 years ago. I was 18 at the time, and I have stood in that darkness that you might be standing in right now. I have felt the weight and the enormity of everything that was happening. But I want to tell you this. Even in the darkest night, something can begin to shift. If you give me a few minutes of your precious time, I want to share a moment, one of the darkest nights of my life, and what I've learned from it. Because maybe it will shift something inside you, and maybe this story will plant a seed of light in you too. So, it was 2020. I was in New Zealand, about as far from home as you could possibly get. The New Zealand borders were closed, COVID had shut down everything, and I couldn't fly back even if I wanted to. It has been 2.5 years since my mum passed away by then. One night I couldn't sleep, so I went for a walk in the park next to Queenstown, and it was the end of summer, almost fall. The air was cool and it was around 11 p.m. in the middle of the night. I sat down on the wooden bench under a tree. In front of me was a little pond, and the water reflected the faint light of a street lamp that was standing somewhere in the distance. Everything was silent. It was dark and I was all alone in the park. I wanted to go for a walk to clear my head, and now I ended up sitting on this bench. So I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, just staring down into the water, and my chest started to tighten, and then it started. My eyes started to tear up. I felt this pressure build up inside of me, and tears were rolling down my face, and I screamed from the top of my lungs. I screamed and I screamed, and it felt like all of this had been dormant for years. It was the kind of scream that comes from a soul that was breaking slowly and silently. It was a cry for help, and I felt alone, and I was at that moment. And I started to cry, like full on cry, not a little bit, it was a full on heavy, ugly cry, like tears and snot, and all of it came out. I was sobbing all alone in the middle of the night on a bench in a park on the other side of the world. I kept asking myself, why? Why? Why me? Why does this have to happen to me? Why can I have a normal life like everyone else? Why am I the one who has to go through all of this? Why does it feel like my life is over? Is it? Will I ever not feel this miserable? Why do I have to go through so much pain? There was this flood of silent questions screaming at in my head. I was rocking back and forth with my hands on my head, and I screamed one more time and I continued sobbing. I was wiping down the tears and the snot with tissues. I felt like I was being torn apart in two. There was this immense pain inside of my chest, like someone was piercing me with a knife from the inside out. I felt this rush of rage rising up. I stamped with my feet on the floor to somehow let it out. Painful memories were flying around my head. Gravity was pulling me down. Everything was so heavy. All this weight I've been carrying around with me seemed to be crushing down on me in one moment. The whole world was collapsing over my head. Everything was so loud. And then, quiet. I stopped crying. I became still. I listened if I could hear anything. My face was still drenched with tears, and I could feel that they were slowly drying up on my skin. I felt empty. There was this void inside of me now. This void that couldn't be filled. Empty space. Silence. I asked, why did you have to go? Why do you get your peace while I'm still here? And suddenly I felt something. In that moment, I felt a warmth expanding in my chest. It felt like a spark at first. It started small and then slowly grew like a quiet flame that gradually became bigger and bigger until I could feel it all over my body. It felt comforting and soothing, like someone was giving me a big hug. It felt like my mom was right next to me, and I believe she was. I didn't hear anything she said, but I know exactly what she would have said. You're not alone. I'm right here. I started crying again, but something had shifted. It was like a light had been reignited inside of me. A light that had been dimmed for so long. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something, or I felt like I mattered again. Like maybe I was still here for a reason. Like there was something only I could bring to this world, even if I'm still going through all of this crap. And in that moment, I had this strange feeling that I was needed in the world. It felt like there was something unique that only I could give, even though I didn't quite know what that thing was yet. I didn't suddenly have all the answers, but I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. It felt good. For the first time in a long time, I felt a sort of relief, like a big burden was that I was carrying around with myself just fell off my shoulders, and I let out this big sigh. It made me lighter, and I was able to breathe a little easier. It gave me a new kind of perspective on the whole situation. Instead of thinking, why didn't I get more time with her? It changed my perspective to, I'm grateful for the time that I got to spend with her. Even if it wasn't enough, and it would have never been enough. I learned to remember her with more love than sadness. And yes, it would have been great to have more time with her, but at the same time, it would have been even worse to never have gotten to know her at all. Because for a long time, my mom has been a light for me. After that night, my life didn't magically become perfect. That night didn't fix everything. I still had lonely nights and hard times, and sometimes I still do. This week I had a day where I cried because suddenly everything became too much again. And some of you might say, well, it's been 7 years, shouldn't you be over this by now? And my answer is no. She was my mom. I still love her, and as long as I'm gonna love her, I'm gonna miss her. But that's not the point that I want to make here. The point is that I found a sense of belonging, a sense of warmth, a sense of being held even in the darkest times, a sense of deeper connection to my mom even after she had passed. Only because she isn't here anymore doesn't mean that I can't be connected with her anymore. My love for her is still real, and it's my love that connects me to her, even if she's somewhere else now. There was a sense of understanding the world a little better in all its chaos. It gave me a kind of knowing that is hard to explain but kind of undeniable when it shows up. And it's this: you carry a light and a gift inside of you. There's something in you the world needs, something only you can bring to this world because there's no other you. And it might not be loud or flashy or world changing, but it's yours. And that makes it unique. That makes it sacred. Maybe your gift is being a good listener. Maybe it's the way people feel safe whenever you're around. Maybe it's how your hugs heal more than words ever could. There is an Indian saintess that is called Amma, the hugging saint, and she literally does that. She fills stadiums with people and hugs every single one of them. Maybe your gift is how you make tea, or how you sing, or how you sit with people in their pain. Maybe you don't know your gift yet. That's okay. I don't fully know mine either. But there is one or more, and this gift is a light for the world. You might ask, well, how does giving a hug or being a good listener change anything? Well, it might not change a whole lot at first that is visible to your eye, but it triggers an unseen chain reaction of events that might have never happened otherwise. Let's imagine you do something for someone else: help, listen, hug, cook, dance, make bread, I don't know, and that someone feels better. Now that this person feels better, it quite literally changes how this person behaves and makes decisions in their life compared to before when they kind of felt bad. Because they now feel better, they interact differently with the people around them and might do something for someone or help someone else. And this whole cycle starts from new. Now, this person does something for another person, and that person does something for someone else too. You have now created a positive chain reaction that far surpasses your own actions and continues to grow, which would have never happened without you. It's similar to when you throw a stone into water and it starts to create ripples that slowly grow bigger and bigger, all coming from one action. By you fully stepping into your light, you unknowingly create a better life for those around you, which will again help more and more people. And that's how one action of listening to someone that might have a hard time in their life right now can create a ripple effect of events that would have never happened otherwise. You being here right now matters more than you can imagine. There is a light inside of you that far surpasses your wildest imaginations. There is a light inside of you that no darkness can extinguish. Even if you can't feel it yet, even if you don't believe it yet. Throughout history, there have always been people who have carried this light, some more than others, like Gandhi, Mother Teresa, or Nelson Mandela. You carry the same light within you. Your light is a gift to the world. And maybe you don't believe me if I say all of this, or it doesn't quite make sense. So let me formulate it differently. The world is a better place because you are in it. The world is a more beautiful place because you are in it. Let me repeat this so it can sink in a little deeper. The world is a better place because you are in it. There's no one else that can speak words with your mouth. There's no one else that can think with your mind. There's no one else that can feel with your heart. Only you can do that. And I used to think that pain ruined me. And the reality is, it sucks. No one likes to go through it, and we'd all rather skip it. But now I see it revealed certain parts of me. Grief cracked me open. It made me vulnerable, yes. But it was in this vulnerability where I found new strength. I started to understand something, and it might sound paradoxically, but grief doesn't take away your light. It slowly reveals where it lives. It shows you where light comes from. If this night has taught me anything, that it's even in the dark, we are still whole. Even in the silence, we are still loved. Where there is deep grief, there was great love. So if you're going through darkness right now, I want you to hear this. There is something unique that only you can bring to this world. And it's by going through this darkness that it will reveal itself to you. You might not see it yet, but it's there. If you're in your dark night now, this might be the place where your light begins to rise. Maybe not all at once, but enough to take one step forward, and then another. You might not have all the answers yet, and that's okay. In fact, I'll tell you a little secret. No one ever does. No one has it all figured out, but we learn to dance with life. The point of the dance is not to get to the end of it as quickly as possible, but to enjoy the dance. And if that doesn't make sense either, that's okay too. So don't stress yourself to find out your gift. It will reveal itself to you. And most likely, you unknowingly do it already. I don't fully know mine either, but I'm walking more and more into the right direction. One step at a time. And if I want to do anything with this video, then let this be a seed that I plant in your heart, a seed of hope, a seed of love, and a seed of healing. Seeds need time to sprout, but someday they will grow and bloom. And when that day comes, you'll know that you've also made it through your darkest time. Because one day, someone might need your story, like you maybe needed mine today. And when you speak, they'll see a part of themselves in you that will inspire them. They'll see their own light reflected in yours. You're exactly where you're supposed to be right now and right here, even if it doesn't feel like it yet. And your light, it's right here. It always has been. So take good care, my friend. And remember, the world is a better place because you are in it.